Welcome to the Eureka Street Crypto Podcast.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting from Leander, Texas. It is 6:35 in the morning, June 27th, 2022. And this is episode number 470 on a Tuesday. All right, so we got Monday out of the way and over with, and we're headed on down into the week, and we'll see what this week brings. Every single day and every single week in this crypto market is an entirely new day. It's like Groundhog Day. It's like the same but different. You know, you can decide whatever else you're going to do and what next steps you'll take to try to refine your experience in this crypto space. This is my morning video blog, my brain dump of my ideas and my Web3 thoughts and the news that I try to keep up with, although it's impossible in the Web3 space, in the crypto space, to try to keep up with all the current events. And this is my sandbox for me to be able to play with my audio-visual toys and things and techniques that I learn in broadcasting and stuff like that. And this is my message in a bottle to all the community out there in the Web3 space. And just people in general who like my content and want to learn. I love feedback. I love thumbs ups because that helps, I guess, the YouTube algorithm and all that. Give me a subscription. I'm getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. And it may not seem like much to you. I know all these, young little YouTuber guys and girls, have like 100,000 followers, 1 million followers. But hey, man, I'll take 1,000 followers, like for somebody that actually wants to sit around and listen to my crap, for a few minutes in the morning, and just helps me to process my thoughts. Anyway, so let's move on over here to the old CoinGecko screen and see what the market looks like. Okay, so let me just hit the old refresh button and see if anything's changed in the last 5 minutes. And you never know. I mean, it is the crypto market. Actually, Bitcoin's gone up by $40. Just dropped by another $20 or so. Okay, so Bitcoin's at $21,028.65, up 2% in the past 7 days. Ethereum is at $1,226.61, up 8.4% in the past 7 days. And then we have Tether and USD right there at $1. BNB at $239.13, up 10.1% in the past week. And Binance USD right at $1, right where it should be. XRP 34 cents, up 7.9%. Cardano down at 49 cents, staying flat, down 0.1%. Solana at $39.48, up 11.3% in the past week. The Dage, 7 cents, at up 19.5%. And let's see. I wonder if Elon Musk has tweeted about Doge lately. And yesterday I talked about Polkadot some. I finally got around and got off my butt and tried to figure out what Polkadot's about. And it's a pretty interesting project, although I think it's pretty centralized. So. That's just my opinion, man. So Shiba Inu, who knows what number that is, 0.00001095, up 34.3%. I'm not into those types of tokens anyway. And then we have Bancor network kind of going through some kind of crisis right now. Could it be a liquidity price crisis? I don't know, but Bancor, it looks like it's falling. They've closed off their impermanent loss function, and that's one of the key things about Bancor right now is the whole about that. That's one of the key characteristics about Bancor is their impermanent loss function. So let's see here. What's going on with Bancor? One of the biggest DeFi protocols on the market, and Bancor is one of the original DEXs. It wasn't Uniswap, by the way. It was Bancor. That was one of the first decentralized exchanges, and one of the first places where you could trade and swap different tokens. They actually, let's see here. in this book, The Infinite Machine, they actually talk about Bancor for a little bit, and it's part of the whole history of Ethereum. I mean, Bancor has been around for quite a while. It's well established, so it's not a fly-by-night operation. And I have some funds on Bancor, which sucks right now, but these guys have been around for a while, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But some people are calling Bancor a shell game. The whole idea of they do single-sided liquidity. And what impermanent loss is whenever you have an automated market maker, which is what a DEX is, basically any user, anybody in the world can contribute, like say for instance, 50% Ethereum and 50% USDC tokens pegged to $1. And you can supply the liquidity in that market, 50% and 50%, for people to be able to go in and somebody say, hey, I have Ethereum, but I need to trade that out for USDC. Well, that liquidity is there in that pool that random people like you and I have supplied to. And so that's there. They don't have to go searching for somebody else with enough USDC to be able to swap and to match make and all that stuff, which is what an order book type of exchange does, the traditional exchange. And so that liquidity is there, and you can swap out what you need. And then there's a little transaction fee. And the people that provided that liquidity, the 50% ETH and 50% USDC in this case, they receive their proportional percentage of that transaction fee. So if if you're only providing a little bit of liquidity, you'll probably get like, what's amounts to basically dust, as far as a percentage of that liquidity pool. Or if you're providing to some weird token pair, like, I don't know, like the Gala token, which is like a metaverse type of token, and I don't know, let's say sushi, so sushi and Gala token. That's kind of a weird token pair, and not many people would be providing liquidity for that. So you would have a large percentage of that liquidity pool. So people going and trading that, you could possibly make a decent income, incoming revenue from that type of liquidity pool. But the risks of that are really high because you have two volatile tokens. And so when one token loses a lot of value, then it has to compensate, by filling it up with the other token value, I guess. I'm explaining this horribly, but as a result, you suffer a loss. And but that loss is not permanent. It can correct itself when the tokens start to revalue or balance back. But for the time being, if you don't pull out, that loss is impermanent. But if you pull out of that liquidity pool and you pull your money out, that loss becomes permanent, and it can suck. So what Bancor has done is they've found a way to provide impermanent loss protection. So when one token loses a bunch of value, they basically add in their BNT token to balance out that loss, of value of one of the tokens. So that's been kind of a unique feature of Bancor, and they've had really high rewards for people that provide liquidity on their exchange, on their DEX, their decentralized exchange. And I've used Bancor, and it's a good swap platform, like Uniswap, like a lot of these other decentralized exchanges. The 1inch is an aggregator, but like Sushi Swap, and so yeah. Anyway, now Bancor is having issues. A lot of people have like Celsius and Three Arrows Capital. They were both using Bancor to get yield, and so what Celsius was doing is like fractional reserve banking, basically. So if you deposit, let's say for instance, $100 into a fractional reserve bank, they can take $90, up to 9/10 of your deposit, and go around and play with it in the casino, and they can try to get higher interest, and then they come back to you and the banks promise you 0.05%, and they're making like 10% off of your dollars, they get a healthy return. Well, the promise and the allure and the attraction of these centralized finance platforms like Celsius, Nexo, and BlockFi is that they're offering you like 4 to 10% or something like that, depending on which token you deposit and lock up. And so they will lock up your tokens, and you'll deposit your token in there, and then they can take your money and go leverage it out on platforms like this. Like Bancor was one of them, where they would earn a high yield and then they would give you your 4%, and then they'd be earning 12%, and then they could earn 8% basically off of your money. And it works. That's called rehypothecation, and I covered that a few episodes back, the meaning of that. And that rehypothecation works, meaning them investing your money into something else to earn a higher yield. It works as long as the market's going good. But when the market's going bad and people are starting to pull out all their money, and Celsius has to pay people back, so people are pulling their money out of Celsius. Celsius is having to pay people back, and they don't have the money to do so. So they're pulling all their money out of Bancor, and Bancor is having to refill their tanks with their BNT token, and everything starts in a death spiral. So we'll get into the details of that. I just kind of wanted to give a little background of what single-sided liquidity was and that type of stuff. So Bancor, a decentralized automated market maker and exchange, has temporarily paused its impermanent loss protection feature to protect the protocol and its users from manipulative behavior, in quotes. In an announcement published on June 19th, Bancor said that it was confident the measures will secure the protocol while it works on introducing better protections. However, the announcement was quickly followed by rumors that a possible solvency crisis at Bancor was framed as a user safety precaution, in quotes, still hurting from the Terra Luna fallout and the ongoing crisis with Celsius, not to mention the Three Arrows Capital's hedge fund crisis too. All that's is crashing. The crypto industry is rife with speculation about how Bancor will solve its liquidity issues. Okay, so CryptoSlate talked with Bancor team about the truthfulness of these claims, the events that led to their decision to pause impermanent loss protection, and the steps they were taking to prevent similar issues in the future. So Bancor is trying to blow back from the Celsius crisis. And the Celsius has been kind of a pillar in this crypto industry. So them falling out along with Terra and then Three Arrows Capital, those are three solid pillars, So on June 19th, Bancor announced that it will temporarily pause its impermanent loss protection feature, that single-sided liquidity. Trading will remain active on all liquidity pools on the network, and users who remain in the protocol will continue earning yield. So I do have some funds in Bancor. I can't withdraw my funds. I tried yesterday. I wasn't going to, but I wanted to see if I could, and I couldn't. But I guess I'm still earning interest. So once impermanent loss is reactivated, they will be able to withdraw their fully protected value. While withdrawals from the protocol haven't been affected, Bancor said that it paused new deposits into its liquidity pools to prevent confusion. They don't want more people putting more money in and then not being able to back that up. According to the company's blog post, Bancor has registered anomalies in its data and has reasons to believe they're a result of manipulative behavior. Therefore, we're taking bold measures to protect the protocol by temporarily suspending illiquid impermanent loss protection and other steps to limit further exposure. Okay, however, rumors about a possible liquidity crisis at Bancor spread like wildfire. Soon after the announcement, the platform is accused of buying time to figure out how to remain solvent after incurring losses on its native BNT token and downplaying the severity of the issue. So right now, Celsius was pulling money out of Bancor, and then you had somebody else shorting, which means selling the BNT token, some unknown actor. And we've seen this on like all these different platforms and DEXs and stuff like that. And in Celsius and Terra Luna, and now in Bancor, just these shadowy figures. And I hate to use Elizabeth Warren's word, shadowy supercoder. No, these shadowy investor type of people now, not shadowy supercoders. And so Elizabeth Warren was talking about these shadowy supercoders in the crypto space. Well, I'm talking about these shadowy investor types that are maybe like these government actors, if I'm going to put on my conspiracy hat here for a second, like these Goldman Sachs types of figures right now who seem to be trying to crash Coinbase as well. So what happens whenever they get to crash it all, they can buy it all up, and then say for instance Goldman Sachs crashes Coinbase, and then they come in and buy Coinbase. I don't know, but that's a whole other story. But I mean, there's been a lot of these shadowy figures coming in and shorting a lot of these protocols and causing and triggering these death spirals. Who are these shadowy shorting figures? I don't know. But anyway, they seem to be popping up everywhere, like, these shadowy figures that are suddenly causing fires in all these food processing plants all over the United States. It's like a lot of this stuff is happening, these shadowy sabotageurs, and I am a conspiracy theorist, I mean, I love that stuff. So, I mean, I'm not even going to try to, disguise the fact that I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat, because I do have a tinfoil hat. I have a permanent tinfoil hat on my head, and I love it and I'm proud of it. I'm skeptical of everything, I'm skeptical. I always believe that there's some bad intentioned actors that do not like good in society and sovereignty and independence of the average person, and they will try to sabotage it at any moment. So yes. Anyways, that being said, some believe, okay, so Kobe, he's a pretty prominent person on Twitter, says, what's the point of impermanent loss protection if it just disappears when you need it most, when you most need it, right? Yeah, good point, Kobe. Some even believe that Bancor is bound to end up in a death spiral, as its impermanent loss mechanism compensates liquidity providers by minting new BNT, transferring the cost to BNT holders through inflation. So here's that death spiral I was talking about. So Hasu, another prominent Twitter person and one of the main people at Flashbots, says Bancor's shell game of impermanent loss is hiding is collapsing. So they're saying that this whole single-sided liquidity and this impermanent loss insurance is just a shell game. Basically, they're just printing out of thin air new BNT tokens to compensate and to kind of put off the impermanent loss for a little while until the market kind of corrects itself. However, in this case, the market's not really correcting itself at this point, at this moment. So Bancor's shell game of impermanent loss hiding is collapsing. They print new BNT to compensate underwater liquidity pools and call it impermanent loss protection, in quotes. The cost is transferred to BNT holders via inflation, which causes further impermanent loss to all other BNT pairs and leads to further inflation, a death spiral. Yeah. And then he was responding to his own tweet. He's saying, except Bancor doesn't actually reduce impermanent loss in any way, like sushi. They just throw more incentives at the problem to compensate liquidity pools. This strategy will always collapse at scale. So it's kind of like Ponzi-nomics, Bancor provided this impermanent loss to attract people to its liquidity pools. And then whenever something was happening, all they would do was kick up the rewards to attract more people to bring in to perpetuate these and keep these liquidity pools propped up by more people and putting in their money. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of Ponzi-nomics, So Bancor confirmed rumors that the recent Celsius crisis was at least partially responsible for the issues with the impermanent loss on the platform. The company said that the cost of providing BNT rewards to liquidity providers has been amplified by the recent insolvency of two large centralized entities, which many believe refers to Celsius and Three Arrows Capital. So these two entities were key beneficiaries of BNT liquidity mining rewards, having been longtime liquidity providers in Bancor. So Three Arrows Capital and Celsius, like I said before, were rehypothecating the deposits into their funds, into their platforms, and then they were getting the large interest rates that were coming from the Bancor liquidity mining rewards. So that's what they were doing. Allegedly, I guess, that's what they were doing with the money that you deposit on Celsius. I had some money on Celsius, so they were taking my money, giving me my 4 to 8%, weekly rewards on Celsius, and they were taking my money, and they were going to Bancor, and they were providing liquidity on Bancor and receiving I mean, Bancor rewards were going up to 50%, of interest, and some of these liquidity pools were really high, and so when you accounted for the rewards, so yeah, they were making a healthy profit off of my money, and they were giving me my 4 to 8%, but I wasn't complaining because it all seemed pretty stable while the market was going good. Anyway, to cover their liabilities, these entities have unexpectedly liquidated their B&T positions, so they started in their own death spirals, Three Arrows Capital and Celsius. So they had to cover their liabilities, which means liabilities of people pulling out of their money out of Celsius and Three Arrows Capital. So they had to pay these people back. So they were pulling the money out of Bancor, and then Bancor is suddenly like, oh crap. So to cover their liabilities, these entities have unexpectedly liquidated their BNT positions, their Bancor token positions, and withdrawn large sums of liquidity from the system. At that same time, an unknown entity, the shadowy figure that I was talking about earlier, had opened large short positions on BNT, Bancor explained in the post. And that short position will drive the price of Bancor down if that unknown entity is large enough. Is that unknown entity sounds like a whale. Somebody that could open a large short position on BNT enough to affect the price is a whale. And whoever this unknown entity, whether it be some kind of malicious actor, they saw what was happening with Celsius and Three Arrows Capital, and then going to Bancor and pulling out theirs. So they're like, now would be a good time to short that token. And so while this would be a manageable issue for a protocol with diversified liquidity pools, this is a serious risk for Bancor, as all the liquidity pairs on the protocol are against its native BNT. So that's a risk factor of that single-sided liquidity, and Bancor token being the only other token that is on the other side of those liquidity pools. Like I said, before, 50% one token, 50% another token in a normal liquidity pool. But whenever one side of that is only Bancor, that's kind of an issue. So the decision to keep trading open while halting deposits was also heavily scrutinized. Some critics say that this enables BNT holders to dump the tokens, causing an even bigger discrepancy in the liquidity pools that now have no impermanent loss protection. So yeah, the very feature that attracted people to Bancor, the single-sided liquidity, which is why I put my stuff in there as well. Of course, the high rewards as well for putting my money in there. Is halted for the time being. So the Bancor team was quick to respond to the controversy surrounding its decision to pause impermanent loss protection. The protocol's head of growth, Nate Hinman, said the announcement had no intention of downplaying the severity of the Bancor situation Bancor faced. So let's see here. Mark Richardson, the product architect and head of research, discussed the implications at length in a Twitter AMA. Richardson said that the decision to keep trading open was a practical one, as reactivating impermanent loss protection would require rebalancing over 150 liquidity pools. Halting new deposits, however, was an ethical decision. Richardson said that it wouldn't be fair to accept new liquidity from users while the situation remains unresolved. And that makes sense, I guess. Maybe he's a wordsmith, and knows how to spin a situation, or maybe he's just telling the truth. And that, it makes sense. It does sound like kind of like an ethical decision. But some people are not so sympathetic, like Kobe up here that I was talking about it being a shell game and them trying to scramble around and figure out what to do and buying time. So Nate Hinman, the chief growth officer at Bancor, told CryptoSlate, there's no room for speculation about Bancor's solvency. Everything is on chain. You can see how much the protocol needs to pay out in impermanent loss insurance. We're not a centralized protocol where it is a black box and an individual can take risks with user funds. Well, they are somewhat centralized. They can shut off impermanent loss. That's a centralized control right there. But there are varying degrees of decentralization. Not all decentralization is just some autonomous machine on the web. Just everybody just giving up their keys and access and control of things. There are some protocols that are like that, but anyway, this transparency, Nate goes on to say, this transparency into exactly how much impermanent loss insurance is owed is what helped us quickly identify the situation and take emergency action afforded by the DAO to pause the insurance feature on withdrawals. Okay, so they were able, because of the fact that everything's online, and it's not like Celsius, or Three Arrows Capital. We didn't know what they did with their funds. We still don't know completely what they do. Everything's done behind closed doors on those centralized finance platforms. Bancor, like Uniswap, is a DEX, a decentralized exchange. Everything that they do is on chain. All you have to do is go to Etherscan and take a look. So that's kind of what they're saying, is help them to quickly identify the situation and take emergency action. And they are run by a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. I have voted because whenever you deposit to the liquidity pools, you receive the VBNT token, which is a governance token, to where you can officially, after that, vote on the protocols. And I've voted on some of these Bancor protocols. Yes, I've been an active voter in the Bancor DAO. So when it comes to accusations about the sustainability of Bancor's impermanent loss protection mechanisms, Hinman said there's a lot of confusion surrounding its insurance model. He says, some people think we compensate for impermanent loss by printing more BNT. And that's exactly the accusation Kobe up here was saying, that they're just kind of doing the shell game, or Hasu, I'm sorry. This is what Hasu was saying. Bancor's shell game of impermanent loss hiding is collapsing. They print new BNT to compensate underwater liquidity pools and call it impermanent loss protection. The cost is transferred to BNT holders via inflation, which causes further impermanent loss to all other BNT pairs and leads to further inflation, a death spiral. And so, here is Nate Hinman responding to Hasu's tweet. Some people think we compensate for impermanent loss just by printing more BNT. That's not quite true. In reality, Bancor offers its liquidity providers impermanent loss insurance in return for a proportion of the trading fees earned on the platform. So what they will do, if there's major impermanent loss, in order to correct that, they will use the fees. So let's see here. The protocol has two ways of generating these fees. Okay, so the first being Bancor's protocol owned liquidity. Bancor stakes the BNT in its pools and uses the fees earned from staking to compensate users for any impermanent loss they incur, right? Okay, so whenever there's impermanent loss, you get a pump of BNT tokens, so it's coming your way. So the second way of generating fees is through a protocol-wide fee that confiscates 15% of all trade revenue on the network and uses the fees to buy and burn the VBNT, that governance token I was just talking about. So whenever we have a major impermanent loss situation like we have going on right now, they do a protocol-wide fee that confiscates 15% of all trade revenue on the network. And they use that to buy and then burn that VBNT token that you get as a representative of your share in the liquidity pools. So the decision to pause withdrawals was a result of a perfect storm of macro events that culminated with a rapid dumping of BNT liquidity mining rewards that were excessively issued over a period of 18 months. So they are admitting that they did make the rewards a little too high in order to try to attract, a large amount of people to its platform to try to prop it up. So they did admit that they excessively issued those rewards. Hinman said that Bancor decided to prevent a handful of large players from dumping their stockpiles of BNT rewards and withdrawing the large liquidity stakes to protect individual users of the protocol. So in quotes here, they quote it, excessive spending on BNT liquidity mining rewards during the lifetime of Bancor version 2.1 put massive stress on illiquidity, impermanent loss protection amid a perfect storm of macro events. That was the original sin, overspending on liquidity mining rewards. So Nate Hinman admits that they overspent on those LP rewards. That's basically what's going on is they cranked up their rewards so high and they overspent on that. And then whenever they did have a call and a run on their platform by large actors like Celsius and Three Arrows Capital and this shadowy figure that shorted a bunch of BNT tokens, then they had no way to replace those fairly. And so they got themselves in a little pickle, didn't they? Man, this crypto space. I was going to talk about the difference between Web 3 and Web 3.0 and the semantic web this morning. But I ended up getting sidetracked because this is kind of a big story for me because I have money in Bancor and not a whole lot. It's not going to kill me, but it just sucks. It's just like one more, issue, just like, days. But that's why I'm in this space. Here's Hasu's tweet. I have it pulled up. He says you can clearly see in the price performance of these DEX tokens, Uniswap's down 20%, Sushi's down 20%, BNT's down 61%. So now Bancor is pulling the plug to stop the bleeding. Didn't even take 3 weeks for my prediction to play out. And then here he's quotes Kobe. They're all calling out the shell game, the flim flam, and all that other stuff, and the Ponzi-nomics. And I don't know, man. Bancor has been around for a while. Like I said, it's been around since like the beginning of Ethereum, it's been kind of. Bancor's been through a lot of different phases, and this is maybe just another phase. I like Bancor. They're kind of the old OGs. The old dogs around. The old guard. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I do understand Kobe and Hasu's criticisms, though, and like I said, man, crypto is an exciting space. It's why I wake up every morning to do this and to talk about this type of stuff. It's just crazy. And it's kind of like watching all this stuff really kind of gives me more of a critical eye on a lot of stuff. And, like I said, I always wear my conspiracy hat. There's nothing wrong with that, so be critical of things that you're told to not be critical about, be critical of the most established theories and companies and people and governments out there. Always be critical. Look at things with a discerning eye. So don't be scared to be called a conspiracy theorist, because there are lots of conspiracies out there that are right now in the works that we don't even know about, and that will, the truth always has the light shine on it at some point or another, and the truth always reveals itself no matter what. So all right, that being said, I will I'll probably talk to you tomorrow. I got a couple interviews today for some audio-visual jobs, and we'll see how those pan out. In the meantime, I'm really enjoying this time to be able to talk to you guys every single day and not have to drive down to an 8 to 5. So man. Also, I'll just be thankful this time I have with my family, with my audience here, and then with my time to do some independent study. Like, I'm super thankful that I've had a little bit of savings to lean on and to be able to ride through this little period of, I guess, unemployment for now. All right, so I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1. My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.